What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the H-Town Rundown. This is your boy AD. We got my co-host Jules in the building. We got our special guest, Cody Johnson, in the building. What up, fellas? How y'all doing?
What's going on? Doing a
Doing
good
well, man.
job.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. So I think it was something that happened last week. I don't know. It wasn't the NFL draft. The
Uh,
NFL draft happened.
It happened like 3 days in a row. I mean, we don't know what
I mean,
happened.
yeah. I mean, I guess it was pretty major. I mean, we've been on Spaces and on Twitter going crazy for the last 4 months. I guess it was a pretty big deal this past weekend.
Correct.
The Houston Texans had made some major moves, man. What are y'all? We're gonna talk about it. So pick number two, C.J. Stroud, quarterback, Ohio State. Everybody was worried they weren't gonna take a quarterback. Everybody was saying, could they take defensive player? Could they do something different? Could they pass on quarterback totally in the first round? And the Houston Texans said, we heard your cry. We're going to get our quarterback and we're going to get our defensive player too. And they made the trade from number 12 up to number 3 for Will Anderson Jr., linebacker from Alabama. What are y'all thoughts about those two picks? Cody, you go ahead.
All right, so when it happened, or I guess I'll start with pre-draft. I wasn't as high on CJ Stroud. I thought he had some issues, but I understand why they had to go with that pick. Right, he at least raises your floor. At the very least, he raises your floor as an offense. So I understand why they did that, and I guess I'll say I'm okay with the pick. Right, I understand. So, but when they traded up for Anderson, I was like, that's probably going to be a lot, and it turned out to be a lot. But love Will Anderson as a player. If he turns out to be what I think he can be, then I don't think what you gave up in the trade really matters. Getting two blue chip prospects like that, especially at the top of the first round, two top 5 players in the class, top 10 at least by most accords. I think Nick Cassera and D'Amico did a good job getting that, even if you had to give up a little bit more than expected.
Yeah, Jules, what you got on it?
Well, I was a big CJ Stroud fan from 3 months ago. I was beating that drum. I wanted him over Bryce Young. I didn't understand the knocks because he wasn't athletic. Pat Mahomes is not athletic. He could move around the pocket. Tom Brady won 10 Super Bowls, not be athletic. The position of the quarterback is throw the ball and command the offense. Exactly what he did. His 2 years, 3 years in high school. That's what the man does. He played the position. The knock of us because he has elite talent. That elite talent is going to NFL. NFL receivers are elite talent. Mm-hmm. So that knocking him wasn't understandable, and he could run the offense. And that's basically what you wanted. And according to Shovik, and that Kubiak offense and Max Shannon offense was QB friendly. He plays QB better than anybody else, including Bryce Young. So I didn't understand the knock behind him. So he was my guy, number one guy. He's built for his frame, his height, his arm strength, his accuracy. That's what you want in a quarterback. I know these new offenses are well developed and they want people to run and do all that. Bottom line is, can't deliver the ball because delivering the ball and touchdowns and big moments, what quarterbacks do, not run the ball, not got a pocket, deliver the ball in the pocket and deliver a strike. That's what he does every time. Will Anderson, I'm not gonna
be. Sorry about that.
I ain't gonna be a hypocrite. When the news broke on Wednesday that they can trade up for him, I was like, nobody in this draft is worth 4 picks, including Will Anderson, because this team is void of talent. But after they made a trade and they got in the 3rd round, and my question to everybody is Will Anderson the best edge rusher this year and next year prospect? If that's what your belief is, that he's better than Jordan Verse next year, and he's better than all the edge rushers this year, you make the choice, you make trade up, and make trade. So I gotta live with it. If that's their draft board is that he's the best edge rusher these next 2 years, then that's it.
Yeah. About it, I've always been quarterback at 2.
Right.
Get your quarterback at 2. I was going to be able to find solace with any of the 4, whether it be Bryce, which we found out that was out of the picture early. Whether it be CJ, Anthony Richardson, hell, even Will Levis. I would find solace because at the end of the day, you got your quarterback at 2, and that's what you do as a rebuilding franchise. You get your franchise quarterback and figure the rest out later.
Right.
Will Anderson, not never was high on Will Anderson.
Yes. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't at all.
I even had to hashtag anybody but Mr. Anderson. So I was anti Will. I mean, there's a lot of things that make me question Will Anderson as a player. The stats prove, are there. Production is there. It's just something. Sometimes it was just hard for me to see him win on blocks and everything, win on single blocks, one-on-one blocks and everything like that. But for them trading up, I love the aggressiveness to get your guy. If Will Anderson is your guy, go get him.
Right.
Point blank period, and that's what they did. So the value, I mean, is because that's who you want. So you got to give up what you got to give up to get who you want. There's been a lot of questions and a lot of people's concerns of Nick Casario and what he's done, especially with that trade. And people have brought up all the trades because Nick is the trade master. And when it comes to the NFL draft, he makes at least the last his first 3 drafts, he's made at least 3 to 4 trades every draft. So I mean, it's almost commonplace at this point. But the fact that we out of the 9 draft picks, only 1 was our original, 2 were our original picks. Everything else was us trading up or trading down, however it may be, to get the players that we want. But let's run through the rest of the draft class. I mean, went and traded up in the second round and got Juice Shrugs. They call him Big Juicy.
Big Juicy.
We've been clamoring for a center. Everybody's been crying for the last 2 years about a center. Everybody's saying we got to get a center this draft. We got to get a center this draft. And they went ahead and did it and got Juice Shrugs. Scruggs. I'm sorry. I want to call him Shrugs, but Juice Scruggs in the second round, center from Penn State. I know most didn't have him valued that high, but once again, it's somebody that the coaches loved and liked, and they went ahead and got him. Then they followed up with that in the third round and got Dylan Horton, defensive end from TCU. Is it? What is it?
Tank Dell in third.
Oh crap! Okay, Tank Dell. I'm skipping Tank Dell. Can't forget Tank Dell. Nathaniel. This is what his mama call him. Wide receiver from Houston, man, electric. Get off. Quick foot, quick feet. Can move, man, and was electric in Houston with 13. Led the nation in receiving yards and touchdowns last year at Houston. I mean, just playmaker. That's what we've been. There's another thing we were clamoring for in the offseason. Got to get us a playmaker for our quarterback or whatever. We got to get a playmaker, period. Tank Dell is that playmaker. You got him in the third round, and then they followed up with it. Finally, we get to Dylan Horton from defensive end from TCU. We picked him up as well. And then the next pick was Henry Tua.
Solid pick.
I wasn't high on him either, but hey, we needed a linebacker, and I was like, it's something about Alabama linebackers and the Houston Texans. Can't stay away from them. We got 2 of them in this draft, so okay. And then going down, we doubled up again on center. Notre Dame center Jared Patterson. We got him in the 6th round, and I think he's going to be transitioning from center to guard. I think it's going to be a battle. We're going to talk about that later on as well, about the battles, potential training camp battles, especially with these rookies and coming in battling the veterans. And then you got Iowa State receiver Xavier Hutchinson as well in the 6th round. Playmaker, a solid X wide receiver, something that we desperately needed for a while. I mean, the disappointment of Nico Collins, being injured, not being available, not having the production. We needed another big body receiver, and we got one in Xavier Hutchinson, all Big 12, captain of his team. 1,100 yards this past year with no Brock Purdy and no Breece Hall. on that team. So he was the offense for the Iowa State Cyclones. And then our final pick was in the 7th round, Pittsburgh safety Brandon Hill, a speedster, and made a great tackler. Had 81 tackles, 2 interceptions this past year. Pretty decent pickup, especially for depth purposes.
Special teams.
Yeah, special teams, but really, I mean, behind Petrie and I'm losing my train of thought. I'm
Jimmy
getting lost.
Ward.
Jimmy Ward. We needed some depth, man. I can't sit up here and rely on MJ Stewart and Eric Murray. Not another season. But what are y'all thoughts about the rest of the draft class? Go ahead, Cody.
Do you want me to run through them all real quick, or just one and then let Jules go, and then I'll go through the next one?
Yeah, we can go one by one. That's fine.
Okay, cool deal. So we'll go Juice Scruggs first, man. So I know he wasn't as high on everyone's board. I saw a lot of 4th round projections and stuff, and admittedly, I didn't watch him pre-draft, so I wasn't going to judge. I hadn't watched him, right? But what I found interesting was if you go listen to his interview with Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder on the Bootleg Football podcast, he talks about how Penn State, they are all gap power and inside zone. They very rarely ran outside zone or wide zone, right? He said it was an adjustment for him because at the Senior Bowl, that's all they did was wide zone and outside zone. And he actually classified himself more as a player that's better on the move, right? Not necessarily that he's bad like in a gap power scheme, but better on the move, breach blocking, stuff like that. So I'm curious if the Texans specifically saw that portion of his film and liked what they saw enough to give him a 2nd round grade to make that pick. I have to go back and watch more, of course, but just based on that little thing alone, I think that's what the Texans fell in love with. And if that's the case, you can't really knock him for it because what it sounds like is that he wasn't used to his best. I don't want to say he wasn't used to his best abilities. I'm not going to knock on Penn State here, but he thinks of himself more as a outside zone, wide zone blocker.
Not only that 2nd round pick, but a trade up for the 2nd round pick. So they have to be kind of high on this cat.
Yeah.
See what he can do. I ain't gonna lie. He was never on my draft board when it comes to centers. He was 8th center on 20th center. I just never had him anywhere in my mock drafts to draft him. And there was guys that I thought watching the film that were better guys at that point. I know Mike's gonna agree with me because he had multiple guys higher than him. But when it comes to that, it has to be a scheme fit for somebody who's not rated as high as he was on our draft boards, on all these mock draft boards and all these prospects draft board. He was never in the top 10. On Walter Football, I think he was the 9th ranked center in the game. So it is what it is at that point. I think he's a system fit.
Yeah. Speaking of Michael, hey, what up, Michael?
What up?
Michael G, our other co-host of the H-Town Rundown, has joined us, and we're smack dab in the middle of breaking down and talking about the draft prospects that the Houston Texans, took in the 2023 NFL draft. We talked about Will, we talked about CJ. Now we're on to Juice Scruggs. What are your thoughts about Juice? They call him Big Juicy.
Yeah. So obviously love the Stroud pick. I nailed that one. I was saying all along we're taking Stroud. Will Anderson, a little bit of curveball. Shout out to Daniel Jeremiah for nailing that one. New faces defense. He's a good locker room guy. Obviously, excellent run defender. So hope that works out. Scruggs, my initial knee-jerk reaction, which was on a space, was an F- grade.
Told you.
I wasn't really holding back. So I paid close attention to the centers, not only on film, but at the Senior Bowl. I was not all that impressed with Scruggs. I'm not saying he was bad, but he certainly didn't stand out. And the fact that JMS went 5 picks earlier really made it so much worse. Like if JMS went 20th, okay, still don't love the value for trading up for Scruggs. I know that they view him differently than I do, obviously, because they traded up in the 2nd round to get him. I didn't see enough of him on film in the outside zone scheme to feel comfortable making that sort of move. if they had traded up 6 spots, jumped the Giants, and taken JMS, I'd be singing a very different tune. I know the upside is there. I did have not JMS. I did have Scruggs going to the Texans in some of my mocks, but it was always like the 5th round because based off everything I heard, mock simulators, you don't put that much stock into it. But the scouting reports themselves, what I saw on film, what I saw at the Senior Bowl, maybe a 4th rounder. Like I don't really see what they saw, but hopefully I am dead wrong. Would not be the first time. And he's obviously the story, not only him being a team captain and checking that box because all but one of our picks were team captains. But also he came back from like a really bad car wreck and kept getting better and better, which is awesome. So, that's hopefully he's just starting to get there. But yeah, I'm not going to give it a really good grade even now. But hey, at least they got a center, right? At least we're not trotting Quesenberry back out there because, we have the all 22 film meetings during the season and blood was shooting out of our eyes watching Quesenberry. So at least we won't have to sit through that anymore.
The question is, why would they trade up for this cat? Was somebody look at this cat to draft him before we did get a chance?
Yeah, his name, the guy that we have to thank for that is Bobby Sloyd. Bobby Sloyd pounded the table for Juice Trucks. So if Big Juicy don't pan out, it's all on Bobby. Thank you, Bobby.
And like I think Cody agree with me. With this offense, it seems like they don't really need a powerhouse, high draft center. So from the trade up, the way they did for a center that was arguably not a lot of people's draft board, has to tell you something about the kid or something about our scouting report that said he can be special.
I'm going to say I bet they like the mental side of his game. You listen to his interview. He talked about how he came into Penn State as a left tackle and then moved to center and had to learn all the reading linebackers, who was the mic and reading all that. They must have liked that aspect of it. And you need to have a smart center if you want to run an efficient offense, especially on the offensive line. If you have a trot guy out there that can't point out defenses, who the mic is, and you're not going to get anything done, right? So I bet that was an aspect of it, and they get more film than any of us, right? So I'm sure they had enough of a film to see that outside zone, that wide zone stuff, that they liked him to make that move up for him. But like you said about that trade, they knew the value of him better than any of us did, So you got to think someone else was about to take him or move up for him. I'm not sure. I don't know, but that's what you would think, right?
Right. Yeah. Who was the next center taken? The next center after Juice went out, another center go what? The late 3rd round?
Yeah, I think it was because I think everybody was saying the top 3 were Tipman, JMS, and Whippler.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go into like the 6th round, right?
6th round, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's something that we have to go back on and reevaluate. Why did he? I don't know if it was a medical issue or what, but Whippler I thought was going to be ideal. I mean, CJ Stroud center, most of his college career, that would be like ideal fit. But obviously, it had to be some question marks because he fell 4 rounds later than what everybody thought he was going to be drafted anyway. But with Juice, he has the physicals to be a pretty damn good center. It's just he could never put it all together on tape.
Right.
He's athletic, he's big, he's strong, he can move, but you can never put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And that was his biggest issue. So maybe, the coaching staff can coach him up and put, and mold him into what they want and what they need. So that I think they looked at the traits and like Cody said, the mental aspect as well, and said, hey, we can work with that, and that's somebody that we need to target. Moving on, they went and got a center and they went and got a tank. They got a tank. Everybody was ecstatic. Even the conversation today was about how productive Tank Dell on Twitter today, how productive Tank Dell could be in his offense. And even, everybody's getting excited, giving out, stats, what he can do. And how they can use them and everything like that. What are y'all thoughts about, the great Nathaniel Dell staying in Houston and playing for the Houston Texans?
So I'll be honest, that was actually more of one of the head scratcher moves for me, and it's basically from a size aspect. I was one of the guys that had a size issue with Bryce Young, and I also have it for Dell. You don't find very many productive wide receivers in the NFL under 170 pounds. You don't find much at 175 pounds. So that was my main issue. Look, he was productive at Houston. He's a hometown guy. I get it, and he's a explosive athlete. He's hard to get hands on because he's just so quick and twitchy, right? So I get all that, but I am going to be flinching every time he runs over the middle, right? So, and he's a guy that I also say it's a head scratcher because you have John Mechie who probably going to profile in the slot, right? You're not going to not draft because of John Mechie. You haven't seen what he can be on the field yet, but you had it, and then you go and draft a 5'8", 165-pound wide receiver. So, but at the end of the day, I bet they're going to be the one moving him on motions and doing screens and stuff like that. So I get where they're coming from with it. I can see what they liked in him. It was more of, again, the size issue for me. But if I'll say, I don't think he's a guy that's going to put on 10 pounds and hold it for a season. He's just not. Like Devontae Smith couldn't do it either. He's not going to put on a bunch of weight and hold it and play with it. So, at the end of the day, though, if they can use him correctly, keep him safe from a bunch of big hits over the middle from these 240-pound linebackers, then you can make it work. And he's stayed relatively healthy at Houston too, so I'll give him a plus for that. But we'll see how it goes. That was my main knock, though.
Yeah, Mike, what you got?
So I did think the Texans were gonna. First off, I thought Tank Dell's stock was going to be early third round. And I basically said that ever since the Senior Bowl when he just kind of took over that first day. I mean, with his lightning quick release off the line of scrimmage, nobody could cover him. I know he's not Tyreek Hill fast down the field, but like at the top of his routes, it is really difficult to contain him, to keep him in check at all. My pre-draft comp for him was Darnell Mooney, who plays roughly 30-35% of his snaps in the slot. So the rest of the time he's out wide, despite him being close to Tank Dell size. I think with his insane quickness, 0 to 60, like 0 to 60 off the line of scrimmage. I think him and Mechie will kind of split slot snaps, and then, both can do it on the outside as well. We saw that in college. We haven't seen it in the NFL yet, but I think the traits are there. And obviously it was very cool to see, the Texans put out, hey, he hit us up on Instagram back in December, and CJ Stroud, I don't know how much information the Texans gave CJ Stroud after they drafted him, but he's hitting up Tank Dell 2 hours before they take him, like, hey, let's go over some concepts and stuff. It's like, okay, now that's pretty awesome. Like, so there is a plan in place, which
right. I think he's more of a CJ guy than if we had got Bryce, I don't think we went for Tank. I think he was something that they can use for CJ and his accuracy and his quick release.
For me, I kind of pissed some people off today because I said that I don't see Tank Dell in this offense getting more than 300 yards receiving this year. And I got a lot of flack for it. And my logic behind it is that if you look at it in a perfect scenario where there's no injuries at the receiver position and everybody's healthy, Tank Dell is like your fifth option or sixth option when you look at the offense. You got Robert Woods is going to be a focal point. You got to look at John Mechie is going to be a focal point. Nico Collins is still on the roster. He's going to be a focal point. I know. And then you got Dalton Schultz. It's going to be a focal point. Then you have Damian Pierce and Devin Singletary, the running backs who are going to be focal points. Then you come into the Tank Dell territory. And so then after all of that, and even if you look at the Slowick and Shanahan offense, they don't run a lot of 4 wide. And if they do run 4 wide, their fourth wide receiver is a tight end. So I don't see Tank taking taking over anybody's spot, and him playing sparingly. And my logic behind it is that I don't see him playing more than really playing on the offensive side of football until like this last 7 games of the season. And just trying to incorporate him. He's primarily going to be on special teams, returning kicks and punts most of the year. So people got upset, even had a poll put out, and people, disagreed. I was like, it is what it is, but hey, I'm sticking by it.
I mean, I get what you're saying about maybe this year because of Nolan Brown and Robert Woods and a make or break year for New Collins, but going forward, they have to have a plan to get this cat in the 3rd round. I think once those 3 guys are off the roster next year, maybe Tank rises up and he actually gets the route tree better and he gets the movement better and he gets the maybe put on a little more extra weight and he can be a good weapon on 3rd downs or 2nd downs as gimmick plays like a Debo Samuels. Maybe they put more packages in for him to use his strengths.
Yeah,
At this point, I don't with the receivers that were drafted, signed, and here. I can't tell you what kind of offense we're gonna run. It doesn't seem like it's a common offense. We won't have pitches that match at all. So I don't know what we're gonna run. So at this point, it's up in the air.
Yeah, I'm going to. Before we move on to the next pick, I want to say this. D'Amico Ryans in his introductory press conference talked about that when it comes to building an offense, it's not going to be strictly Shanahan or strictly,
Correct.
Kubiak with the same West Coast that they're used to. It's going to take elements from all different aspects, and they're going to be original, be authentic, and make their own style of offense. So it's gonna have. I feel like it's gonna have concepts of the West Coast, concepts of the Shanahan, which is the West Coast, and then concepts, analytical concepts from him, Bobby Sloyd coming from PFF, and him taking that aspect as well, bringing that into his offense. So it's going to be a lot of multiple different styles of offense that they're going to bring, and so it's going to be interesting. And what they brought in this offseason, it reflects that. So we will see. But
Makes me kind of nervous though. Makes me kind of nervous that this whole reason he was here because he was a Shanahan guy and a Kubiak guy and all this stuff was the only thing was said about him that he's gonna run that West Coast Mike Shanahan offense. That's all we heard about him through the whole
I mean
season.
you gotta remember too, he worked under McVay as well.
Right.
And so even though McVay and Shanahan run similar offenses, they're a little different. They run them a little differently. So I mean, he could take some shades of that McVay offense as well, and that incorporated in there.
But like I said, I'll let Cody talk about how they're gonna use these cats because right now with like that just make me a little nervous. We could pin on this conversation for later on in the whole Strovic offense and what we're gonna see going into the season.
Yeah. So hey, moving on. You got the next pick was defensive end Dylan. Is it Dalen or Dylan?
It's gotta be Dylan, right?
DeLeon.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever.
Dylan.
Dylan Horton, defensive end from TCU. Excellent run stopper. Wasn't really watching him because I'm be all honest, I wasn't watching TCU like that, even though they made it to the national championship game. Really wasn't really paying attention to TCU like that. Cody's the Big 12 guy. I'm SEC, so I watch SEC football. But what are y'all thoughts about Dylan Horton and him being that bigger body frame? Before we go, can somebody clarify? Is he a 260 defensive end or a 280 defensive end? Because I'm just
he's 275. His playing weight is 275.
Okay,
yeah.
I was
He
confused.
measured in at like 257 at the combine, but I was like, dude, you watch him on film, he's at least 265.
Yeah,
right.
He looks bigger than that on film. So I don't know. Maybe he tried to lose some weight before the combine because he was classifying as an edge and not an interior defensive lineman. But
I think his handler or his agent trying to get him as be a DN, a rush DN. That's not what he is. He's a run stopping end or an inside guy that plugs the hole up. But he's better as a rush defensive end that stands at the blocks and holds up the gaps and everything like that.
Yeah, so Big 12 defenses, the way they run their defenses is not beneficial to defensive linemen looking to go to the draft. It was a problem for Felix Anaduke-Uzama. It was a problem for Will McDonald, Dylan Horton, and even Will Anderson at Alabama. They did the same thing with him. They play undersized guys as 4 eyes and 5 techs and have to take on double teams and stop the run from it, like a position that like J.J. Watt played at 280 pounds. These guys are all playing at 250, 260, They're smaller. They're not meant to take on doubles like that. It was 3 down linemen, and then you had 3 safeties or 5 DBs, whatever it was. You wanted to stop the big plays. So Dylan Horton fits into that mold, man, a guy that they didn't utilize correctly. But he still was able to produce even with that, right? So you figure he's a guy that's profiles kind of like Grenard, 260 pounds, guy that's a run defender before he's like a pass rusher. You think he is the safety net for Grenard if he has another injury that Dylan Horton can kind of come in there and just play the run, be a base down guy, maybe move him inside on obvious passing situations. But what I find interesting is the way I think they'll use him on those overload packages that D'Amico did in San Francisco, where he had 3 guys loaded up on one side. It was like Arik Armstead as a 4-eye. They had Charles Omenihu as a 6 tech, and then they had Nick Bosa as a Y9. And then on the other side of the field, you had Samson Abukum as another Y9. So you had nobody in the middle, right? So I feel like that's kind of a situation they want to use him and Will Anderson and maybe a Sheldon Rankins, and then you put Jerry Hughes on the other side in obvious passing situations, stuff like that. I feel like that's how he could be used in the passing game. But again, like y'all said, a good run defender, he can set the edge really well. And he kind of showed up in like the bigger games, like the Michigan game. I believe he got 2 sacks in that game. Was able to get some pressure on the QB, stuff like that, and also again stop the run. But TCU's offense was the main point of their team, so there wasn't a whole lot of defenders that like helped him out, right? So he was one of the main guys on that defense. So I'm a little bit higher on the pick. I know he wasn't a big name. Nobody really watched him as far as the Texans were concerned. But again, I think a guy that once we move him outside and out of that 4-eye, 5 technique stuff, I think he'll be a little bit better at the NFL level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once Will Anderson kind of got drafted, I wasn't really looking for him to get a DN to run stopper. So I stopped looking for those guys. So I was actually surprised I actually picked him up. But I'm actually very excited about the pick because to me, it's just as important as your pass rusher is your run stop at the edge and set the edge, and he does that very well. And I believe his hands are a strong step. His arms is fast. He got the first good step. He still needs some work on his technique. I need him to be a certain weight. You know what I'm saying? Not fluctuate back and forth. So I like to pick. I think he's actually going to be a starter midway through the season.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, you don't like none of the drafts, the Texas draft. You was probably mad at the whole draft at this point.
I wasn't. I was very happy with the Stroud pick. I was cool with the Will Anderson thing, even though I didn't love the value. Scruggs, it pissed me off because JMS was still there, or went 5 picks earlier. And AA, man, y'all know I love AA. I've been talking about him.
And he's dropped
before the Senior
rock.
Bowl. I'm like, come on. Oh, he's right there. Oh my God, we passed on him again. Oh, the Colts got him with the next pick. So if you're going to go with a defensive lineman who's a tweener, you're like, is he an edge? Is he tackle? Maybe he does both. Why not go with him? So I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the draft room there and know why they picked Horton. I like him. I just don't love him like I love AA. But I mean, he's pretty good in the run game. He's got an explosive, or you could say wicked first step as a pass rusher too. There are tools there. He can sit behind Jerry Hughes, battle Jonathan Grenard for snaps in his rookie year. Obviously, Will Anderson and Jerry Hughes would be the starters. Yeah, but with AA there, man, that hurt a little bit. I do like most of the picks though. Like, I get why people think because and anytime Scruggs brought up, I'm like, dude, don't talk about him again. Damn.
You forget we were live in the whole draft with you where he was going, what are we doing? What
I was very happy with Tank Dell.
I got guys drafted higher than him and reports higher than him, and I went to the Senior Bowl, and that came out your mouth at least twice every time they drafted somebody.
Yes, it probably did. I'm sure it did. I will push back though against what AD said about the Tank Dell thing. I think he's going to be the number 3 receiver, not necessarily week 1, but week 4, week 5. I 100% believe he will be our 3rd leading wide receiver. I think it's between Robert Woods and Nico Collins, and whoever loses that battle is 4th. Like that's, Nico can run a mean comeback, but that's about it.
We need somebody at least over 6'2", right? Can we get one receiver over 6'2"?
Yeah, we can have one. We can get Marvin next year.
Hey.
We're not talking about that. I'm not talking about Marvin right now.
Hey, that Marvin dream went down the drain with the Will Anderson trade. Everybody.
Are you sure? You're sure Casero's not going to say F them picks? Let's go get him.
You don't want to. There is no more Deshaun Watson picks after next year. This can't be reckless anymore.
Hey, you give me Will Anderson, Derek Stingley, C.J. Stroud, and Marvin Harrison. I don't care about any other picks.
There we go.
Let me say this: I'm a scarred Texan fan. 4 out of 5 years we didn't have a first round pick. I don't want to go.
I feel that
again with no first round picks for 25 because we want to trade up for Marvin Harrison. No. He's legit, but I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice that. But let's go on, man. Let's move on to the next pick after Dylan Horton. Somebody help me out. Who was the next pick? Toto. Yeah, that's why I don't remember because
your bias because Alabama is showing very, very much so.
Hey,
let's go to show, buddy.
Hey, my colors are maroon, so I don't care about all that crimson. Y'all can miss me with the crimson, but
it's Roll Texans. That's what we're gonna go with.
That's right, Roll Texans.
Hey, I was saying Henry Noah. No.
No. But I told you in chat that that pick that he was coming up there. I had a strong feeling that he's gonna get picked up because inside linebackers dropped so badly this whole draft.
And we needed depth at inside linebacker. We went out and got Denzel Perryman, and then we were stuck with Christian Kirksey. God, can we get him? Hopefully. Toa shows us something that we can feel comfortable as him playing a reserve Mike linebacker role, and we can move on from Christian Kirksey. But what are y'all thoughts about Henry Toa? These last few we can kind of roll through them kind of quick.
Gotcha. So I wasn't as high on Toto. He got some 3rd round hype. I didn't really see that. I thought he was a little bit slower for a linebacker or like a Mike linebacker. I don't think he's going to do much for you in coverage. But we're talking about the 5th round here, right? So at the end of the day, you're not going to complain too much. A leadership guy, special teams guy, a depth guy, right? That's what you're getting probably with Toto. And, I heard someone describe it as his tackling is more like a cleanup guy than he is like a Mike that's going to go and like Roquan Smith and just run someone over, right? So wasn't as high on him, but at the end of the day, another captain, another depth guy, I'm okay with it.
I mean, if we go with a guy who's missing tackles and Harris, and the guy who cleans up, they work together, right? They worked together 2 years ago, right? They work well together. Christian Harris overrun them, and then here comes Tutu to clean up. I mean, it works. So I'm saying y'all got to have faith in D'Amico Ryans and his Alabama linebackers that they're gonna work in tandem. I mean, where's the excitement about this defense coming up going forward?
Now, look, I actually kind of like the pick. Obviously, I talked about Deion Henley every day for 2 months, how much I wanted him. But Toto was on my radar, and I thought it was a really nice value. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, shortly before we took him, I'm like, I think he's definitely in the conversation there. D'Amico wanted another Bama guy, another Bama linebacker to develop. And look, man, as far as what he did with the Niners, mid to late round linebackers, I think there's a pretty good success rate. That's not to say he's definitely going to hit, but I actually really like his coverage skills.
I do too.
I don't love his tackling, but the coverage skills are there. Blitzing, like in situational roles, he can bring the blitz too. So it all comes down to development for him, but he can be a good quality starting linebacker if he's properly developed.
I mean, you had that with Trent Simpson, the number one ranked inside linebacker. The fact that he failed so far in the draft and got him next. I mean, the value's there for Henry.
Yeah, hey. Yeah, I ain't getting no more commentary from me about Tua. So yeah.
Damn.
Y'all tough. Y'all tough draft. Y'all tough this draft. I'm gonna be all bought in. I'm bought in every pick. I'm bought in. I don't know about Tank too much because I think he's like 6 foot. He's like 5'2". But other than that, I'm running with all of them. Let's go.
Let's move on to the next pick. Who's the next pick? It was Patterson. Yeah, Patterson. Patterson was a pick that I thought was intriguing because when you first look at it, I was like, why the hell did they take another center? And I was like, yeah, we needed to double up on center. I was like, another center, and then I had to think about it. Okay, we got Kenyon Green, Shaq Mason, Quisenberry. What's after that? What's behind them? There's nothing behind them. So having those guys, like Patterson, who can, play guard as well. So having that depth and creating competition, especially between him and Juice and Dieter and, I guess Quisenberry. But, there was no other interior offensive lineman. I don't know if they were going to try to play Deculus inside or whatever, but there was a lack of depth, and it was intriguing, and it made a pick that made a lot of sense. Everybody's says was not high on him, says he was ass, but I mean they pull out that stat he hadn't given up a sack over 1,500 snaps or something like that he played at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So I mean, hey, he has something. So but I think coming into this season, he was the highest rated center coming into the season. Then he had a bad season with Notre Dame and he kind of fell off. But what are y'all thoughts about Patterson and his fit on the team?
So correct me if I'm wrong. Did they announce him as a guard?
Yes, they announced him
That's
as a
what
guard.
I thought. So I'm wondering if maybe he's the plan after Shaq Mason. A little bit of obviously he's going to be depth right now, right? Compete for the center job maybe. But I will say most of his career he played center at Notre Dame, except for last year. He played almost 400 snaps at left guard. So I wonder if that's the reason, he struggled a little bit in the last year, moving to a new position. I don't know if Notre Dame needed it. They had a guy that was decent at center and nobody that could play left guard, so they moved him over. But he has some experience at it, right? So, like you said, AD, it makes a lot of sense for depth purposes right now. You can be your backup left guard, backup center. Hopefully, like y'all were saying, this is the end of Quisenberry. But again, another guy I didn't watch pre-draft. I was going to watch whatever center we took after the draft because I didn't want to watch 12 guys. I didn't have a lot of time to watch 20 guys and then us only take one of them, right? So I'll watch it when I get to them in a few weeks. But depth pick, like it, possibly the potential replacement for Shaq Mason, who is turning 30 this year, I believe.
Yeah, he's 29.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with his tape. I wasn't impressed with him at the Senior Bowl at all. But he's a 6th round guy who can play guard and center. So it makes some sense. I'm a little puzzled since Whippler was still there, but there must have been some sort of issue with him. And fortunately, there weren't any other guys that I'm like, man, we got to get this guy. So I'm not devastated with it because of that. And hey, if it means Quisenberry's gone, good. Yes. If Toto means that Christian Kirksey's gone, Good. Get him out of here. So yeah, I don't really mind the pick. Don't love it, but I mean, for a 6th-round guy, I think there's solid potential there, I guess. So
Yeah. Like I said, it's the depth. So let's see where it goes from there. We in the tail end, but hey, the Texans needed an X. And the next pick they went and got an X. X gonna give it to you, Xavier Hutchinson, wide receiver from Iowa State. He has excellent body control, can win one-on-ones. Not the fastest guy, but he is a hellified receiver, X receiver. I really do like the pick. It's a great value. I thought they were going to go Raheem Jarrett because they were all over Raheem Jarrett through the draft process. He didn't even get drafted. So Hutchinson, I didn't expect him. I thought he would go in like late 4th, 5th round, and for him to be there in the 6th, where they got him, that was a steal. What are y'all thoughts about his potential fit and maybe saying bye bye to Nico?
So I don't think that signals that quite yet, but I was surprised. I was surprised he fell to the 6th round. I love Xavier Hutchinson, man. He was at Blinn College for 2 years and then transferred to Iowa State for the last 3 years. I believe he was all Big 12 all 3 years. I could be mistaken. But if you watch Iowa State's offense last year, he was that offense. The line, obviously you lose Brock Purdy, you lose Breece Hall, you lose some linemen, you lose the tight end, the 6'7" tight end. I'm forgetting his name right now. But you lose all those guys, and the offense was putrid. It was one of the worst offenses in college football. And he still managed to get 1,100 yards. A guy that worked Texas for 150 yards and a touchdown, and just had a complete concentration drop that probably lost them that game. And he does that from time to time, but then he just goes and snags something that he should not be in the realm of catching, right? So, then I was telling you earlier, it wasn't a crazy stat line, but 11 catches for 90 yards against Iowa, who had one of the best defenses, one of the best secondaries in college football last year. And again, nobody was helping him out. It was just Xavier Hutchinson. So able to put stats up against good defenses, right? And he's a guy that is good to great at every aspect of being a wide receiver, but he's not elite at any aspect of being a wide receiver. So I really like the pick. I think when we're getting to the middle point of the season and he can start getting some more reps and he can maybe take over the wide receiver 3 spot, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I'm not going to predict anything, but because he was a 6th-round pick. So obviously the teams didn't like him for some reason, right? But I really like Xavier Hutchinson. I think he was the best wide receiver in the Big 12 last year. I know there's a lot of Quentin Johnson fans out there. I think he was the best wide receiver in the Big 12 last year. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, I think that was a great pick. I think that's the steal of the draft for us, but we'll see how he progresses. I know he's a little bit older. He's 24 years old right now, I believe. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm a big Xavier Hutchinson fan.
Yeah, and before you go, I know Cody, you have to go ahead and step away. Hey, let us know where we can find you and follow you and, support you.
All right, man. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at FB_Lone Star. Just posting Texans stuff every other day, every day now. Keeping up the content. And then I do videos on the lead YouTube channel, capital T, capital L, no space. And y'all want to go over there and subscribe, watch some of the videos, check it out. I really appreciate it. And again, guys, thank y'all for having me on. Sorry I got to out right now, but
no problem. Man. Thank you so much. You'll be on again, man. We'll reach out again. All right. Link is in the bio. Link will be in the comments, everybody. So check the comments. Link will be there.
All right. Catch you later, guys.
All righty. Thank you. All right, Mike. Now, what you got on Hutchinson? What you got on him?
Yeah, so Cody kind of broke it down pretty well. Good but not great, kind of everything. I think his age is part of the reason why he slid. I'm not sure why A.T. Perry slid the way he did, but again, the only slight issue I had was the guy I wanted went the next pick. My boy Andre Oshavash. Taught
Ah,
team at the Senior Bowl a few
man.
times. Yeah, why did it keep happening?
I think that he was the pick, but they just couldn't pass on Hutchinson. I
Which is
think
fair.
that right,
I mean, he's more pro ready than Yoshavash is.
right.
And I mean, shoot, I don't expect him to, but it's not crazy to think at some point he surpasses Robert Woods and or Nico Collins. Like
Mm.
the upside's there, and he did continue to improve his game like each year that he was there. Um, so even though he's an older guy, he still has like plenty of room to go, plenty of room for growth. Um, I like him in the system. I like that we got a bigger receiver too. Not quite as fast as I want, but he can run. He can make guys miss. He can be a legitimate red zone threat, and we certainly need some guys who can score some touchdowns for us. So I like the pick. I think it was one of the best picks. I know that some outlets are saying, hey, that's one of the biggest steals of the draft, and he really could be. So it's a good pick by the Texans.
Yeah, I agree, man. That was something that I didn't notice is that there were a lot of older players. Tank Dell is 24.
Mm-hmm.
Hutchinson is 24. I think Scruggs is 23.
3, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they wanted people that had a little even Toa. I know Toa is 22, 23 as well.
Yeah, that
So
COVID year definitely.
yeah, I mean we're gonna get. I mean, I think after next year is when you're finally gonna stop because the COVID year will be over with the older players. But yeah, man, I that was something interesting is that they weren't shy about someone being older. I think even Horton is 22, 23, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, they were not shy about taking guys that had a little bit of age on them. Even the next guy we're going to talk about, final one of the draft, Brandon. What is it? Brandon Hill. Yeah, Brandon Hill, speedster. Ran a 4.4 40. I think he's going to be our fastest safety in the room. Faster than Petrie, faster than Jimmy Ward, and so he's going to bring that element. He likes to hit. I love that about him. He's got a little moxie, and for him being a 7th-round pick, what can he do on special teams, and can he eventually be a depth piece, to this team?
Yeah, I think he probably makes the practice squad on the team, which would be definitely a feat for any 7th-round pick. I guess he must have like a lot of character issues. So, the Texans really wanted to overcome that by having all of their other picks be team captains so they can really. So I have no idea about Hill off the field. Solid guy on the tape. I haven't watched a ton of it, but definitely can contribute on special teams. Definitely a fast guy. And hey, any step that puts us closer to moving on from Murray would be nice. So that's a good move. We needed some depth at safety for sure.
Yeah, I think that was a solid pick. And to be honest, going into the draft, we said they needed to double edge. They need to double up at center. They need to double up at wide receiver. They covered all the bases that we've been talking about for the last 4 months. So I mean, it's hard, for people to be upset. But I mean, people are gonna be upset if you don't draft a player that they love or like. So I mean,
You talking about me?
I'm talking about C Roll too. Shout out to C Roll.
Yeah.
He'll be here this episode, but shout out to him. He was upset. It was. I wish we would have saved that space during the live draft and the trade, and the range of emotions like that was just epic, man. That was just epic. But the Houston Texans also made some moves with undrafted free agents. I'm gonna talk about 2 that I think probably would have impact, and that is Xavier Valade. I think it's Valade, running back from Arizona State, formerly of Wyoming, transferred to Arizona State, and he is to me, looking at his tape, it was a surprise that he wasn't drafted. So I mean, I don't understand it, but for us, I'm ecstatic because I think he's going to bring a lot of depth, and he's going to play. I think he's going to make the team, and I think he's going to play. He's that talented. He is on the smaller side, but he can, run up the middle and can do everything you need. He is the receiving back that we've all wanted in the draft. We just got him in as an undrafted free agent. So, what are your thoughts about him?
Yeah, he's a Sun Devil, and I mean, when he hits that second gear, he's a demon on the field. He's a little older, and this was a really strong and deep running back class, so that probably had a lot to do with why he was still available. But there's no injury concerns, and you see flashes of like Arian Foster on the film. I even see some like Israel Abanikanda in this game too. The way he hits that second gear, and then he's gone. Very shifty guy too. So it's fun to watch him shoot out three guys, and they all run into each other. So I like the pick. Not pick, but the addition. I think they gave him a good amount of money for a UDFA, which seems to be
3-year contract.
Yeah. Oh, so it really was a 3-year contract?
Yes, it was a 3-year contract. I think with a guarantee of 200 something thousand or whatever guaranteed.
Okay, so he's going to be on this team for sure.
He's going to be on the team for sure. And then the other one was Jared Wayne. I think that's how. What is it? The wide receiver from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Name? I forgot
is he from
his
Pittsburgh?
name. Yeah, the wide receiver from Pittsburgh. I think it's Jared Wayne. Let me make sure before anybody cut my head off about it. Hold on. Yeah, Jared Wayne from Pittsburgh, number 5, 6'3", 210 receiver. I mean, hey, people pulling up highlights and people get excited, but I gotta remind people it's highlights. So there's not gonna be a bad play on the highlight. So I mean, I don't expect much of this, but I think people have been talking about it and people are kind of getting excited about it. I guess because it's more that it's a receiver than it is the player.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he's practice squad all day. Maybe later on this season, getting bumped up a few games here and there. To see the field a little bit, but I think he's going to primarily be a preseason. Great, similar to the Johnny Johnsons and
Jalen Camp.
Yep, Jalen Camps of the world. He's our new Jalen Camp. So preseason specialists and practice squad captains. So I think that those are the two picks everybody's been talking about. But overall, I think you stated earlier you're pretty, pretty cool, pretty good with this class. I'm ecstatic because just for the organization to show its aggressiveness all throughout the draft, trading up, trading down, being aggressive. We all knew that they weren't going to take 12 players. It was always going to be like 8 or between 7 and 9 is what everybody said we were going to, bring in this class. And the manner that they did it, whether you like it or not, just doing what you had to do to get the players that you wanted, whether it be at the top of the draft, in the middle of the draft, at the back of the draft, doing what you needed to do and maneuvering around and being creative enough is something that we been kind of clamoring for. I know a lot of people were upset about the Will Anderson trading the compensation. I said on the spaces, I'm trying to give everybody solace. Even Landry Locker brought it up right after. Just imagine that this trade was for CJ Stroud. If you look at the trade as if it was for CJ Stroud, we won because I can almost put my mortgage on the line and say that if we would have taken Will Anderson too, we would not have been able to get a quarterback at all.
Yeah.
So I'd rather take my quarterback, get my quarterback, and people can fight to the death over Will Anderson, but they don't want to fight for Will Anderson like that, and we all know why. But Other than that, do you have anything else you want to discuss before we go ahead and knock it off? I know we want to talk about the 50 options, but we can say that for the round table coming later
Yeah,
on.
that'd be a good topic for the roundtable. I also like the Allegay pickup too.
I forgot about that. That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a good pickup. Yeah, especially on the defensive line.
Yeah, that's another developmental guy we can bring in, and he can compete for that number 4 role, number 5 role at least. So we got that's always been pivotal in any defense, but especially over there in San Francisco. We need depth. We need guys on the D line who can come in at any moment and make some plays.
Right.
And I think the tools are there for him to be able to do that. This you said next year's draft class will be like the last group of older guys. So is Leonidas going to be in that class?
Hey, we're not gonna give him any publicity, man.
All right. But no, overall, I really like this draft class. Would have loved it with JMS, Josh, but you know what? It's a damn good class. D'Amico got his guy. We got our quarterback too. We got guys who can lead, change in the locker room, change the culture. Like, we need to put fans in the seats. And most people know we didn't do that last year. So bringing in a Will Anderson and CJ Stroud will kind of help change that for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree because we need any and everything that we can get, man. Because this fan base was depressed, man. Yeah, I know. I wish I could pull up the visual, like the lady after from Popeyes after she got them making those chicken sandwiches, sitting out, like with her head between her knees, like that's what the Texas fan base was forever, man. For like at least the last 3 years. So to put some more excitement in the building, man, and to be honest, man, to put light fire under these players that's been on the roster, drafted players, put fire under their asses and making them, show up. Like I know Lovey was saying show up and show out, but they didn't show up at all. So hopefully this draft will make them, realize, hey, my time is limited. So I need to get up off my ass and play. But yeah, man, it was a great draft class, great pickups, in the undrafted free agency as well. Overall, kudos to Nick Casario, D'Amico Ryans, Cal McNair, Hannah McNair. I mean, what's his name? James. I can't remember his last name. Scouting director. Shout out to everybody in the Texans organization for giving the Texan fans a good weekend, a good draft, a good experience. So shout out to the Houston Texans. Thank you. And shout out to Jules who had to bop off earlier. Y'all follow him at Jeff Bear 80. Shout out to Cody Johnson for coming through. Y'all follow him as well, like he said, at FB_Lone Star right there at the bottom of the screen. Y'all follow our other co-host, C Royal at Royal Texan Fan. Y'all go ahead and follow and subscribe and like and hit the notification button on the H-Town Rundown. At the H-Town Rundown down below, the H-Town Rundown on YouTube, and the H-Town Rundown podcast on Instagram. Y'all go ahead and follow us on all platforms. Y'all can follow Mike G, as you see up there, _ Michael Gartman. Y'all can follow me as well at BOOLEY60. So this has been another episode of the H-Town Rundown. And y'all already know the roundtable's coming soon, and y'all already know how that's gonna roll. So we'll see y'all on the next episode, man, and we'll holler at y'all next time, man. Peace.